He packed in silence. One suitcase, a duffel bag, a leather satchel I once bought him when we were happy. He didn't look at me. I stood there barefoot in the doorway, arms crossed to hold myself together, watching a life I built unravel with the sound of a zipper. His toothbrush gone from the sink. His socks no longer tangled in mine. It was quiet in the kind of way that breaks bones. I didn't ask him why. Not because I didn't want to know, but because I already did. There's a certain look a man gives when he's somewhere else while sitting right next to you. I'd seen that look for months, maybe longer. At first, I thought it was stress. Then I thought maybe it was me. Then I stopped thinking altogether. Survival mode kicks in like that, when you're more afraid of the truth than the silence it hides in. He left without saying goodbye. Just a nod, the front door clicking softly behind him, as if he didn't want to disturb me. As if I hadn't already been disturbed for years. I didn't cry. Not that day. I made a cup of coffee, black and bitter, and sat on the edge of our unmade bed, staring at a dent in the pillow where his head used to rest. It looked too deep for someone who had been sleeping elsewhere for so long. The worst part wasn't that he left. It was how light the house felt after. As if his presence had been pressing down on everything, even the air. I could breathe again, and that made me feel guilty. What does it mean when you miss someone but also feel relieved they're gone? It means the love died before they did. People texted. A few friends, some relatives pretending to care. How are you holding up? What happened? I always had a bad feeling about him. I ignored them all. Not out of pride, just exhaustion. The truth is, when someone walks out, no one else walks in. Not really. You sit with your own questions. You replay every argument, every silence, every time you looked in his eyes and saw someone you didn't recognize. I didn't sleep the first night. Or the second. On the third, I found his shirt in the laundry basket, still smelling like his cologne and betrayal. I laid it on a side of the bed and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere between dusk and dawn, I remembered the first time he touched my hand. How my skin buzzed like it had been waiting for him. I tried to imagine if she felt that too, whoever she was. I didn't hate her. Not yet. I hated that he found something in someone else he didn't see in me anymore. The silence after he left wasn't empty. It was loud, accusing. In every corner, every drawer, in the way the fridge hummed like it knew secrets I didn't. I wanted to scream, but instead I made a list. Cancel his gym membership, close our joint account, block his number. Practicality is easier than grief. At least it has steps. 2 weeks passed before I let myself look in the mirror without turning away. Grief, when it's fresh, clings to your skin like something alive. My face looked thinner, maybe from the sleepless nights, maybe from all the words I didn't say, stuck in my throat like glass. My eyes looked older. Not wiser, just more tired. The kind of tired that seeps into your bones. Makes even smiling feel like a betrayal of your own pain. I went back to work. Pretended I was okay. Smiled at the receptionist. Answered emails. Laughed when someone made a joke I didn't hear. I became very good at pretending. We all do, eventually. Grief isn't loud. It's quiet. It shows up in the pauses between sentences, the way your hands tremble while pouring coffee, the silence that stretches too long after someone asks how you've been. At night, I started scrolling dating apps. Not because I was ready, God, I wasn't, but because I needed to know I still existed. That someone might still want me. The first time I matched with someone, my stomach turned. He had kind eyes. Called me beautiful, in a way that felt rehearsed but gentle. I deleted the app that same night. Not because he said anything wrong. Just because I realized I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for proof. My mother called me. She always had a way of sounding concerned and judgmental at the same time. You'll find someone better, she said, like I had just lost a job or a favorite sweater. I didn't answer. There was no comfort in cliches. No healing in empty promises. Better is such a useless word when your heart is still tethered to the memory of someone who once looked at you like you were the only person in the world. I started walking in the evenings. Not far, just around the block. The breeze helped. Movement helped. I needed to feel like I was going somewhere, even if it was just in circles. One evening, I saw a man sitting alone on a bench. He had a book in his hands and a softness in his posture, like he wasn't trying to be noticed. He looked up and met my eyes for half a second. Not a smile, not a nod, just acknowledgement. And for some reason it stayed with me. A stranger who didn't ask anything of me, who saw me and kept walking. I started thinking about all the things I never said to my husband. All the nights I stayed silent because I was afraid of pushing him further away. How I let myself become small, quiet, easy to love. And still, it hadn't been enough. That realization stung worse than his absence. I had bent myself backward to keep him happy. And in the end, he walked away without a word. I sat on the floor of our kitchen that night, legs pulled to my chest, and whispered, "You could have just told me." The walls didn't answer. Neither did he. But saying it out loud made the silence feel a little less like my fault. It was late October when I let someone touch my hand again. Not in a romantic way. Just a brush of fingers over mine as he passed me a cup of coffee in a dim little bookstore cafe. His name was Noah. We met once a week for 3 weeks before I realized I was looking forward to those meetings more than I should have. He asked questions slowly, like he wanted to give me space to lie. But I didn't. I told him I was divorced. I told him my husband left. I didn't tell him how much of me had gone with him. Noah listened in that rare way some people do, where they're not waiting for their turn to speak. He looked at me like I was whole, and I hated how much I needed that. I didn't tell him about the nights I still curled around a phantom, the dreams where I woke up reaching for someone who no longer existed. I didn't tell him how sometimes I still wore the necklace my husband gave me just to feel something, rage, longing, grief, anything. But I did tell him I felt lost. He said, "Maybe that's a good place to start." The thing about starting over is no one tells you how humiliating it feels. Sitting across from a stranger, trying to explain why you stayed, why you didn't see it coming, why your voice got quieter over the years. You say things like, "We grew apart," because it sounds better than, "I wasn't enough." You avoid words like betrayal and desire because they're sharp in the mouth, too real. But that's what it was. He desired someone else. And I kept desiring him, even when he had already disappeared in everything but body. One night, I told Noah about the time I found a receipt in my husband's coat pocket. 2 wine glasses, an expensive meal, the date circled in my head like a wound. It was our anniversary. He had said he was working late. Noah didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, "I'm sorry." Not in the way people say it to end the conversation. He said it like it hurt him, too. The thing is, I didn't want someone to save me. I wasn't looking for another man to hold me up. But I wanted someone to see the damage and not flinch. I wanted to be known, even in the dark parts. Especially there. I let Noah walk me home one evening. We didn't touch. We didn't talk much. But he stopped at the end of my block and said, "You don't have to be okay for me to be here." And that was the first time I felt something shift. Not healed. Not fixed. Just possible. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't reach for old photographs or scroll through his Instagram to see if she was prettier than me. I just lay in bed, eyes open, listening to the sound of my own breathing. Still here. Still alive. Still mine. A month later, I took off my ring. Not out of anger. Not to make a statement. Just quietly, in the bathroom with the door half open, the house smelling like tea and clean laundry. I turned it once around my finger, feeling the familiar groove it had left in my skin, a soft, almost permanent mark. Then I slipped it off. Simple as that. My hand looked strange without it, lighter, exposed. Free. The hardest part of healing wasn't letting him go. It was letting go of the version of me that needed him. The woman who planned her life around his needs. Who adjusted her voice when he came home tense. Who stopped wearing red lipstick because he once said it was too much. I missed her sometimes. Not because she was happy, but because she believed she would be. Noah kept showing up. Not with flowers or promises, just presence. We sat in silence sometimes, long and comfortable, like he wasn't afraid of what might come out if I started talking. I told him about the first time I knew my husband was cheating. It wasn't the receipt. It was the way he stopped touching my lower back when he passed me in the kitchen. He used to do that, brush his hand there like it was automatic, like I belonged. Then one day, he didn't. That was how it started. That was how I began to disappear. I would have stayed if he'd just said sorry, I admitted once, ashamed. Not because I forgave him, just because I didn't want to start over. Noah nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. Maybe we've all loved someone long past the point it made sense. He never pushed for more. Never asked where we were headed or what I wanted from him. I liked that. I wasn't ready to want anything. I was still learning how to be alone without feeling lonely. Some nights, I lit a candle and ate dinner at the table by myself. Not scrolling, not texting. Just eating. Just breathing. It felt sacred in a way, like reclaiming something. But I'd be lying if I said I never thought about finding love again. The idea lingered, quiet but persistent. Not a fantasy. Not the fairy tale kind. Just someone's hand brushing mine on a walk. Someone remembering how I take my coffee. Someone who sees me tired and still wants to stay. One afternoon, Noah stood in my doorway, hesitant. He handed me a book, hardcover, worn edges, a note inside that said, "For the quiet parts of you no one else tried to understand." I didn't cry. I just held it close, nodded once, and let the door stay open a little longer than usual. I don't know what comes next. Maybe I find love. Maybe I don't. But I know this. I am not waiting to be chosen. I am not a half looking for its other half. I am whole, even with the cracks. He left. And I'm still here. Not surviving, becoming.